Good evening and welcome to another instalment of our aftermatch review that we've named Berardi and Coke. I'm joined tonight by a smug-looking, uglier version of myself with a beard and no hair. Matt, how are you doing, mate? All right?
I'm not too bad, to be fair. I think it's been a decent day.
Yeah, and a half, mate. It's been. I tell you what, I need one of them heart rate monitors. I was so nervous. I almost thought about going and doing like some washing up or something for the last half hour, because I was so nervous. And I just I just could not. I don't know. There was just a feeling that, do you know what, we're never going to hold on to this. There was always that little bit of disbelief that we were going to do it, with the kids out there and that. But yeah, look, we'll get into some chat in a moment after we've played a little introduction video, and it goes a little something like this. Yeah, evening everybody, wherever you're watching from, whether you're Selenium, Linearium, watching all the way from out in Australia, whether he's still up or just got up. It looks like he's still up from the night before, so it must be a Monday morning there. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Where do we start with that? I mean, what a performance, Matt. What if you were to put that into sort of three quick words, well, what would your three words be?
Wow. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, wow is one of them. I think gobsmacked is another one, and kind of disbelief. It's an unreality.
Yeah. I think I couldn't disagree with any of them. I think no matter what words you said, there's not enough superlatives to actually recognise how well we played today, given the squad available to us, and the position I suppose we've been in over the last few months. Where did that performance come from? Where did it start? Where did it end? Do you know why?
I'm not entirely certain. I think, especially when you put into it the injuries that we experienced early on in the first half, and at that point, I'm thinking, my God. Because Forshaw has been so important to us while Phillips has been out, and at that point you're thinking, we've got a lightweight midfield already, and then compared to some giants that play for West Ham, and then we're bringing on Bate, who I think played quite well, but he's only a young lad and he's only a small lad, and you're thinking, how is this going to go? Are we going to get rolled over here? When for the first 20 minutes we've been well on top and we've been the better side, and at that point in time I'm thinking, oh wow, here we go. we've given ourselves a foothold in the game. We've got our noses in front, and here we go again, more injuries, and then that. I don't know where it came from. I didn't expect it. I even more didn't expect it when we're looking like we're getting some defenders in, and then all of a sudden we've lost another one, and we've lost the player that's protecting the defence, and you're thinking, wow, this could go anywhere now. But the character to be able to get in front and then pegged back, and then again, and then get in front again, to go again. I think it's that's the character that we showed in the Championship that a lot of people said has been lacking of late.
I'd agree. I think we showed some real bollocks as a club, but not only as a club. Some of those young lads that have come in today, Hjelde, albeit I understand they played last week. I was there, and it was a different story. We didn't come away with the win there, but I was there, and I felt like there was always an opportunity. They didn't really look like a fourth place Premier Division side playing a 16th place Premier Division side in the cup, especially given the squads that were out. We caused them a couple of problems last week. They didn't overly dominate the game, other than the infamous Bowen offside gifted VAR goal, whatever you want to call it, and then the breakaway goal when we were really going for it in the last minute. You know, in the last 90 something minute or whatever. But that gave me real belief, and you'll see that belief was in my score predictions, which we're coming to on Tuesday night, because I'm going to be a little bit smug because there's some funny results coming, some points lost and won there. So, but yeah, look, it was a real honest, proud Bielsa type performance, wasn't it? Everybody wanted to play for the club. Yep. Everybody was playing for each other. They were running themselves into the ground. To start with how we started then, obviously, relatively early goal from Jack, who's obviously had his doubters over the last, since we've signed. It was, I would say, since we signed him on a full transfer. When he was on loan, he was the best thing since sliced bread, Jackie Aradona, all that. But he has had his doubters, and I'm hoping he's silenced a lot of those today. What would you make of that first goal?
I mean, we'd given ourselves a platform. I don't think it in any way came against the run of play. I think that we'd built a bit of a head of steam, and I think it was one of those where you're thinking, shit, we are on top and we've got to make the most of it. And there's so many times, especially so far this season, where we've built up head of steam, we've got the other team under pressure, and then we've not taken advantage of it by scoring at the right time. And I think that the goal came at the right time. I think we'd shown that we were there to play, and you know it was one of them for me where we had taken advantage of that, where we were in a position to dominate a side and scored, and actually that's something that we've not been doing. We've not been doing enough of taking advantage of that position.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. We were far more clinical today. Other than Dan James's shot when he was through 1-on-1, I don't remember another open opportunity where we probably should have scored. And Jack reflects that. I think he had 3 shots, 3 on target. He had 4 shots, 3 on target, and 3 goals. So I
think there were one, and I might be slightly unfair here. I think Dallas could have made more of his chance at the back post, and obviously the click VAR incident as well. Yeah. But I think Dallas could have made a bit more of his chance at the far post. Yeah, he were coming at it late, but he could have made a forward move a bit earlier than that. If it had just been half a yard ahead of that, then it's an easy tap in, really. But yeah, I mean, you're right. We've been much better, but if you look at the stats, I think we had 18 shots to their 15. But a lot of those, there were one I think Raf had that I think he hit Rodrigo with, but he was about 45 yards out. And then obviously his free kick, and those are shots. I mean, he was so unlucky not to score that. It was a right effort. And then the next one, not long after. So the shots there are totting up. But you're right, in terms of clear chances, I think we took what was there today, other than Dan James where he was through 1-on-1, and Dallas just kind of bit more of a half chance at the back post.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose what I want to really discuss is a little bit about something what Solanum's actually just commented in there. We're the team who don't look for postponements due to COVID injuries, AFCON, alien abduction. So proud. Which is, it's really tough as a Leeds fan to see that North London derby getting called off today. Given one player has COVID, and I think that's Odegaard, if I remember rightly. I could well be wrong. It might be some. No, is it Odegaard? Maybe. I could be wrong.
I've not seen that. I'd seen they've been cancelled. I didn't see which player had it.
But because I think they've got 4 or 5 at AFCON, and they've got a number of injuries as well. But then you look at the side we started today, and I think I remember one of the commentators mentioning our bench was made up of teenagers, bar Rodrigo. I think Rodrigo was 30, is 30 years of age, and then the sort of next in line, if you like, if they were going in age order, would have been a 20-year-old. I can't think who it is, but yeah, I mean, you look at that and you look at what Bielsa, and you got to think the team that was starting as well. So why didn't we
just as a bit of an extension of that? I think I don't know if you saw it, but I started in the group chat before the game. In our last 13 substitutions, the average age has been 20.008. Now, 2 of those substitutions has been Click at 31 years old. Now, when you're trying to change a game and when you're in a position where you're playing in Premier League, I think when we're reliant so heavily on the under-23s, obviously we're going to struggle. At the same time, what we are doing is avoiding a fixture pile-up. So if you think, Clippity Klopp's had his whinge about the amount of games that they're playing, and then whinged about one of those games being cancelled, and then lost the game after they'd been able to have a rest because they didn't play us, and then they played Leicester, and Leicester didn't get a rest and beat them. So he can get in bin anyway. But if you think we have got a thin squad, but if we can put a side out and avoid a fixture pile up further down the line, we might end up being a bit better off because we're not having to play all of those games all at once, whereas other sides aren't. The other side to it is during this time period when you have got squads that have been assembled for billions of pounds, you can't have any sympathy for them. You buy a player that's eligible for an African nation, then you run the risk of them not being available during this time period. It's not like it takes clubs by surprise. That's part
it's not like
of
it's come around because of COVID either. It's not something. It's been around forever. Well, as long as we can remember, but it's not something that they can then. But it is. That is what they're using it. They're using it as an excuse, and I think it just highlights and reiterates Bielsa's integrity and the love for the sport. Played our strongest available team pretty much against them in the cup last weekend, and he's done the same again today. I just want to. Sort of move on slightly, but also just recover the point about the injuries. Is, I mean, we're already absolutely riddled from head to toe with injuries throughout the squad. We expected Bamford back today. What do you make of Bamford? Because we've been hearing he's meant to be back since Burnley. What's going on there? I've heard rumours that his missus in labour, but that's the rumour. I also can't help but be a little bit apprehensive and a little bit worried because we haven't seen him for so long. Yeah,
so I think it's you're right because it's been. I mean, we were told he was fit. And then we saw him on the bench, and then he came on, and then he scored a goal, and everything seemed rosy at that point. And obviously, we know what happened in the celebrations. So it's almost for me. It's good that we got him on the pitch. I mean, it's great he scored a goal, but it's good that we got him on the pitch because it means that it wasn't that false dawn. He genuinely was ready to play football, and then it was a different injury as well. It wasn't even a recurrence; it was a different injury. And it's for me, it's one of those where. Footballers get injuries. I think we've had a real bad run recently, but it's one of those where you can't get away from footballers being injured sometimes. We've had an awful run, and if you think of the type of injuries as well, I'm hoping from Forshaw and Firpo's perspective, because they were both holding their hamstrings, I'm hoping that they're not going to be out for a while because that's what put Cooper and Calvin out for 3 months.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and arguably, those two have probably been our best players. I would argue over the last few games as well.
Certainly, Forshaw. If you think of the impact that not having Calvin has, and how poorly the results have been over time when we've not had him in this time period when Bielsa's been with the club, and then look at the impact that Forshaw's been able to have during his absence. I think he's been an absolute key man for no two ways about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Firpo started to come into a bit of form and actually sort of looking like a left back that's come from Barcelona and not the Nag's Head down at down the road. But yeah, I mean, we obviously got through to half time and we're winning at half time, and you just sort of think anything can happen, don't you? It was one of those games where you never actually had full confidence that we were going to get the win, but there was always that opportunity and that chance was there. I don't think any Leeds fan could confidently say that they felt that we were going to win that game at any point.
No, no, there was one point when Click scored. At that point, I thought, yes. That's it. The game's in the bag. And then obviously, the referee team came together and ensured that wasn't the case. And you will see behind me, actually, this side, you will see behind me that we are checking the club badge for whether they're going to give a goal or not. I think from a perspective of VAR, we've been fucked in the ass again. And that is 3 decisions in 2 games that have gone the wrong way. And it's been such a massively positive result. I don't want to spend time getting into that when we have come away with 3 points and fully deserved. I don't want to get away from that either. But it's still a piss take, and it still did piss me off. And when it got chalked off, actually, I'd gone completely. The pendulum swung completely the other way, and I'm thinking, shit. Now we've gone from 4-2 up. It's now 3-2. Effectively, we've lost a goal, and now they're going to be on the front foot because they're going to think, we'd lost our chance, and now it's back again, and they're going to want to be in the ascendancy and pushing that. And that genuinely was how I felt. Is that they were going to be able to take advantage of that sort of swing in the game, but I didn't feel that even there's a game management aspect, and this might have been the loss of Forshaw because he's brilliant at it. He's brilliant at relieving pressure. He'll get on the ball, he'll turn one way, he'll turn the other, and all of a sudden he's in 5 yards of space. And I don't really know how he does it, but he tends to be able to do that on a regular basis.
He almost turns against the grain, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then turns back again, and the guy's gone, and he's just stood there on his own with the ball, and you're thinking you shouldn't be able to do that. You're in the Premier League. How are you doing that? And he buys himself that space, and he is great at game management. He'll pick an easy pass instead of picking the difficult one and giving it away. Yeah. But if you look at the last 5 minutes of the game, they had 2 or 3 chances to score. On another day, we'd have been ruining that. And I think, when it comes to I think it was Bowen's goal, Ayling gave the ball away and we got away with it. And then the very next play that we did, the ball was played to Ayling and Ayling gave the ball away. And it's like, I know that we play a high-risk passing game and I know we build from the back and all of that stuff. But when you've just caused yourself an issue, just do something different. Buy yourself a bit of time. Get everybody settled again. Yeah. Just play it long. Get everybody settled again. Let them have the ball, but in defence. And manage it from there. And let's get back on front foot. Give them the ball in their defence and press them there. And let's buy our defence a bit of time to get settled again. We didn't, and they scored.
I agree. We almost put ourselves on, because of the style and the expectation from the players is to play out and create that sort of build from the back type attitude. We almost forced to do it, even though it's the most difficult thing to do. When we're in a certain situation or a certain position, we still force that because that's the style of play that we play. And you're quite right. It put us under a couple. I think I noted there was a couple. I think Hjelde tried playing one quite through the middle, as did. Is that you or me?
What?
Did you hear music?
No, but I can hear your kids in the background.
Yeah, they're knocking each other. They're knocking each other out. But yeah, there was a couple of forced loose passes. Struick and I think Hjelde a couple of times. But you've got to forgive him. The young kids playing at the top level, arguably, in fact, not arguably, in the best league in the fucking world. They're going to make mistakes. We've got to be able to learn and forgive that. One real positive I think we're getting out of playing through this real tough patch is some of our youngsters are getting some experience now that likely they probably wouldn't have been getting for another 2 or 3 years if we still had a full squad.
Well, that's the madness of drama, isn't it? That is the madness of making that decision at that point. Is completely, for me, bonkers. You've got a player that's in the first team. He's getting minutes on the pitch, and his club that's we've not brought him right through the youth ranks. We signed him from Fulham, but the club that's put in 18 months, 2 years, however long it's been since we signed him, in developing him to be ready for the first team, and then he gets into the first team. And even then, my understanding is that the club just asked for him to stay with us until the end of the month. to buy us some time to get other players back. And he said no one went. And that's the madness, is because you can see that he doesn't want to buy seasoned professionals on a regular basis. What he wants to buy is youth and bring them through so that they're coming through with that mindset, with that, and he's worked with them early enough to embed in them what he needs to see from them, the work rate, the pressing, the overloads, and the way that he works, knowing where your teammates are going to be at any given time. That's how the under-23s are set up. And it's that thing where we're in that scenario where he doesn't want vast amounts of senior players sat on the bench. And I don't know if you heard Robbie Keane talking at half-time about when we had him and Viduka and Bridges and Fowler.
That was before the game.
Oh, no, it was just before, you're right, yeah. And you know, I think it might have been Soonish that pulled him up in it and went, look, you had too many good players. And he said, no, you know, and he was saying, you can't have too many good players, really, it sounds wrong. But we're still in a situation where how do you keep those players happy? And then there were a question of, well, was the dressing room a nightmare? It's like, no, it wasn't. You know, everybody were great, everybody got on. But you still can't. You can't keep them sharp. You can't get enough match minutes in them. So they're not ready when they're needed and called upon. And you've got actual top-level players there that aren't getting in the side. How can they be happy with that? So that's
which is why this is ideal. This is an ideal position for us, because our youth and our kids, as I said before, who potentially aren't usually going to get minutes like this in a Premier League at the top level, you know, for a good probably blood in 2-3 years, realistically, maybe a year or two for the better ones from now. But they're getting this experience, and they're getting, you know, that experience is worth more than any contract from any Premier League club is worth. The minutes on the field is worth more than any pennies.
Well, Lewis Bates played an hour against West Ham in 2 games. I mean, maybe slightly more.
An hour and a half. I think he did 45 each.
He did 40. Yeah, he just did, didn't he? Yeah. So, you know, we're in that scenario where you look at him at Chelsea, who wanted to keep him. How many years would it have been before you even see him playing for Chelsea?
Yeah,
it might have been 5 years' time, if ever.
It's just been getting loaned out, and they've just been a farmer for, you know, as Chelsea like to do. They like to farm out their youngsters and get a regular income from them. They you know, they pay over the odds for these young lads, and then they farm them out and make the money back on them. That's one part of their philosophy, part of their money making. That's how they're just going to go through a quick few of the comments, Matt, before we move on. We'll go back to the start. So, Solenum, thanks for joining us, Australia. We've done that. Yeah, we knew we were late, Mark. Sorry about that.
That's my fault.
Gilly works in IT and can't work a computer. Just in case you did not know, Leeds won in London. Ideal opportunity to play this.
We're in London. That's the fucking difference.
Not today.
We didn't need it today. Famous one, we're coming, that's myself. Coming, you sound like, I can't really repeat that one.
Don't do that one.
Solenum's 3 words were get the fuck in, which is great. Not sure what this is, probably a bit of spam. I predict a VAR riot. Yeah, I mean, we've touched on the VAR, just to sort of elaborate on this. It's really difficult when we go and play so well for the first half hour or so last week and get undone by a dodgy VAR decision, and then, you know, we pretty much put the game to bed today and get undone by, albeit in the rules of the law and the law of the land and everything else that goes with it. It was offside, but was he inferior play? The ball would have still hit the back of the net. You know, you can't sort of bend the understanding of the law to support one team and then not for the other. Do you know what I mean? Great. Smite wants you to check WhatsApp because he's probably sent you a dick pic.
He's showing me this.
He
sent me this meme that's behind me.
Our bench, well.
No, not that one.
Jay Michaels, come on, Leeds. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, absolutely buzzing. As a Leeds fan, I put a tweet out earlier that if you can't be proud of Leeds United, in fact, if you're still trying to look and find negatives, then this isn't the club for you. You know, with every single player, every single fan, every single member of the club has fucking put a right shift in today. The fans, to say there was a third of what was there last week, absolutely electric, loud as fuck, could hear every single word. It goes back to the arguments I was having on Twitter last week with West Ham about their.
I got into some of it as well, and you know what they were saying is it was family day, and with kids allowed in for a quid or a fiver or something, so it's always like that, and they were saying, you just wait for next week, we won't be able to hear you. I heard the West Ham fans once when they scored their first goal, and it were, you're not singing anymore.
Before the game, they sing about bubbles and don't sing, you're not singing anymore. And that's it. They're pretty much a Southern Liverpool. That Liverpool only sing their anthem once before the game at half time, and then every now and then if they score.
It's a good job Selenium didn't. It's a good job Selenium didn't hear Jay and Carl going off and Adam.
God, yeah.
Happy to have found the Leeds channels that wasn't always negative, panicking clickbait when we had our tough run in December.
Mark Edison, where did West Ham sign VAR from? Great shout. Jay Michaels, I'm guessing this is on the conversation that we've just had, actually. I get what you guys are saying, but how many times a season have we had the same team? When we have a settled team, we will challenge. Our youth players are outstanding. Look, that is nail on the head. That is perfect, as I would say. We don't have a settled team, and I think that's why Bielsa works well, because he has all the youth teams trying to play the same way. So anybody who does step up, your Lewis Bates, your Hyelders, and so on and so forth, they're ready made. They're molded. They haven't got that. They haven't got the physicality. They're a little. I mean, Lewis Bates looked like he was the size of Jay, didn't he, on that pitch compared to everybody else? I'm sure he's a bit taller than Jay, but you've got people like Dan James out jumping their centre back at 6'2". Their centre back, winning.
Not headers. Even just out jumping, he out muscled him on more than one occasion. And you know what? When I was playing, I was a centre half, and I was 6'2", and if I'd had a 5'7" player in a challenge of me, and me ended up on the floor, I'd have walked off with my head down, completely embarrassed. There's no two ways about it, and it definitely would not have happened twice. I'd have cleaned him out before I allowed him to do it again. Now, I know they're in the Premier League, and it's a bit of a different thing. But the fact that Dawson is so willing to throw himself to the floor is just unreal for me. He's a big, ugly centre-half. Get through your man, win the ball, and get back into position. Don't be Nancy and throwing yourself off floor like that.
Just on Dan James, I think we should sort of just mention how good he was today, albeit he's not a striker, and we're not expecting him to score every chance he gets. He did miss, I would say, a relatively easy opportunity when you're a Premier League footballer. I'd just like to highlight how fucking energetic he was, and how up for it. He was throwing himself about. He put his foot in on the keeper when he was chasing the keeper down. It was a proper Leeds United type player's performance for me, and it's what I love to see. Paddy Bamford leads the line absolutely brilliantly when he plays up top, and it reminded me of how he put himself about when he's niggling and he's getting his foot in there and just leaving a bit on defenders or the goalkeeper in this instance. But those little pressures build up and build up and build up.
Yeah.
There'll be times when they play the ball back to the keeper and he'll be expecting that pressure, but it won't be there. So it's just, there's a few mind games in there as well, which is I absolutely love to see it. I thought Dan James was, I thought he was outstanding today in terms of his input to the game. Fair, albeit I understand. Don't start telling me that he missed an easy chance and that it cost us £12 million. I understand that. I know how much it cost us. But what I will say is his performance today, it set that platform for us going forward. Definitely.
Yeah, and having two players, the speed of that we've got that play up front, because in actual fact, I think it's still the point that Bamford is our fastest player. Now that seems mad. That seems mad, but he's been recorded as having the fastest sprint on the pitch so far this season, or at least by the start of December, that was true. Now that may have changed, and we know that Dan James is quick, but it was mentioned on the official Leeds podcast because at that time, Paddy had been getting a bit of stick about not being so quick, and he's like, "You've got to have a look because." On the pitch, there's nobody in a Leeds shirt moving faster than I do, and it's one of those. But that pace and it's not even just the all-out pace once you're up to speed, is it? When you've played football, it's the first 5 yards. If you've got that turn of pace and you can get away from a man or what have you, or you can close down the man when it's played to him like that. That's really what makes a difference. And when you've got And you're right, and I'm not going to get on him today because we've had a great day But having somebody that's got that pace play, I understand why it's Dan James when we don't have a striker available to us. Why it's Dan James that's up front because of that pace. Because it's not scary for a Premier League defender, or it shouldn't be as scary for a Premier League defender as it is for Championship, because Championship defenders are scared of all-out pace. You can see it, the drop-off, and Premier League defenders are that next level of quality and should be. But it does add that different dynamic for us when what we're expecting them to do is get through that shift, get through the closing down, be our first line of defence as well as our first line of attack. And that is something that he typified today. So, he's not a striker. He was through one-on-one and what happened. And I think he did have another chance that came into him that were a bit of a snapshot. But ultimately, he's had a good day today because he's done what was asked of him.
I'd agree. I'd absolutely have to agree with that. Pecan, thank you ever so much for finding us, I suppose. I hope you enjoy the stuff. Your next comment, I'm gonna go to you on this, Matt. I didn't notice anything happening when Bates came off. I understand he sort of muttered something which, when you're having a good game and you've been brought on and then brought off, it can be almost embarrassing. But in my mind, I'm going to let you try and cover this this topic. But in my mind, he's protecting Bate. I don't know what you've got to say about it.
Yeah, I think I put something in group chat while we were watching the game that I think that was probably a premeditated move, and I hope that was explained to Bate before he went on the pitch, on the basis that regardless of what's going on, regardless of how well you play, we want you to go on, want you to express yourself, want you to get involved, want you to influence the game, and want you to have a good game. But at some point, what we'll be doing is we'll be bringing Rodrigo on for you because that's already a decision that's been made. And if you do that, and if you do that with a young man, you're protecting him a bit further, not just with ensuring that the pressure that they're feeling is not getting too great and that they're not feeling the weight of that expectation, but also that they know when they're coming off that it's not related to their performance, where they think they're playing well and all of a sudden they've been subbed off on and then been subbed off again. Because I thought he did quite well. But you're right, there is a need to be able to protect those players. We've spoken before about the way that Man City went around. And I think that's a really important aspect of what we're doing. We've seen, the Greenwood one. I thought he went off at half-time because he was a young player that were coming into the team. However, it turned out that he was injured. But we don't know whether that would have happened anyway. With Helder, I think that's a different thing because when you're playing in a back line, I know that it's a team game anyway, but when you're playing in a back line, it's the four of them against the attack, and all four of them work together. And it's for me, it's a lot easier when I were playing, bringing a young player in and coaching them through the game and talking to them. You're close to each other constantly. You can have that ongoing conversation to make sure they're in the right place, they're picking the right man. Whereas when you're in midfield, you're fronting up against the player that's in front of you, and you've got a lot more contact with that player than you have with your own men. So I think that's a different dynamic, and the way that we're approaching it is very similar to the way that Pep introduces youth into his sides, where he's not building that pressure too soon. We've all seen, everybody raved about it, and everybody saw the response that bringing Joffrey on gave the entire stadium at Elland Road, and it was brilliant, and it was the hairs raising on the back of your neck, and everybody, it gave the entire place a lift, and that's got to translate to the players as well. At the same time, he also seems like the sort of person that can handle that without it going to his head. He doesn't seem like it's going to go to his head. It seems like he's quite a grounded individual. And all players are different. Everybody, they're all individuals. And I think that the club have got to play it right. And I think protection is the right term, the word that you use. I think it's the right term because we can't afford for them to either end up. I think that move to Cardiff that's happened, I think that is of coming to the first team, realised how difficult it is, and realised that either they're not ready or they're just not that good. Whereas maybe there might have been a bit of ego. We saw some ego at Fulham.
Yeah. I think he's been obviously ill-advised, but he's been very easily led. We talked about Cody Drama there, not anybody who's listening, but yeah, look, I think you're spot on with what you say about Bate. I think he does need that the role that is very similar to Forshaw, the way he moves with the ball at his feet and that, and he very low centre of gravity. And he sort of turns a bit snaky in and out, and he looks like he's going to be an absolutely fantastic prospect for us moving forward and in the future. And I think that it's really important the way that he's blooded now for his future. I think if we put too much expectation and too much pressure on him as a young lad, that like ego could come in. It could be the expectations of way too high as a fan base, and as Leeds fans, our expectations are naturally high anyway. You'd never think we'd been in the Championship for 16 years prior to last
League
season.
One for part of it. Let's not forget.
Sorry, out of the Premier League for 16 years. But I mean, I just want to touch on one other or two other incidents within the game. There weren't really many dirty tackles or filth. Antonio, should he have been on the pitch?
No, I think he was very lucky not to get red carded, and then there was a dive afterwards after he'd been booked. So I don't think he should have seen 90.
Fair. And then, do you think he dived as well, potentially as well?
That's what I mean. Yeah. So the dive, because he went down, he claimed it, he didn't get it. So for me, that's a dive, and he didn't get booked. So it could have been a straight red, but he got a yellow and then was guilty of a dive. So whether he gets the straight red or not, and I can see that either way. Sometimes you see them yellow, but I think he can count himself lucky he want a red. But then to also not be booked when Dean said that he wasn't a penalty, when he sat there, crying on the floor. Well, that's a dive then. If it's not a penalty, it's a dive.
Just on Mike Dean, and it pains me to say it, but he was really, really good today in the middle. I don't think he did a lot wrong. He let a lot of things flow. And I know it's Mike Dean, and I know we've all got this, pantomime villain thing against Mike Dean because of how he is, and he usually tries to be the centre of attention. But he let a lot of things go today. A lot of refs might have pulled up. Don't get me wrong, he was still Mike Dean. But I'm just saying, based on recent performances from referees in the Premier League, I thought that was a relatively good performance from a referee today.
Relatively good, I'll go with. I think I can't remember what you said first. Did he say really good first time? He wasn't the centre of attention that he tends to usually be, and that was to his benefit and ours. For me, a good refereeing performance is when you don't notice them. Yeah, he wasn't the centre of attention, and we know that's usually what gets levelled at him. And I think in a fair manner, that usually gets levelled at him, and he wasn't today. So yeah, I mean, I'll go with. I still don't like him, and I don't rate him, and I think he was the VAR last week that screwed up on the offside. But at the same point, he didn't ruin the game today. No, I'll go that far.
We'll leave it at that. Just a few more comments that we've had since we've been talking. Happy to have found one of the Leeds channels that wasn't always a negative, panicking clickbait.
Like I said, it's just good that they didn't encounter Adam.
Yeah. When we had our tough run in December, keep up the good work. Thank you ever so much. Lewis Bay, outstanding, by the way. Yeah, we've just covered that, Jay. Jay Michaels, thanks ever so much for the comment, Mark. What about the future of our dynamic centre halves? Good talking point, this. Cresswell, Yelder, Stroik, Llorente and Cook. Throw Cooper in there as well.
A bit harsh on Cooper, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mark's not a Cooper fan, I'm afraid.
Isn't it? Well, Cooper was, statistically and in my eyes, our strongest centre-half before he was injured throughout the season, at the start of the season. Now, don't hate us for that. We're all entitled to opinions, but this is statistics. But yeah, don't hate me for that. But yeah, I mean, when you look at previous seasons when we've had some absolutely poor centre backs, haven't we? And even young centre backs coming through, we've not really had a lot of. So when you look at where we are now in terms of the future of the club, we've with all the centre backs you named there, Mark, spot on. How do you pick? I mean, obviously, we've got. I would be comfortable starting any 6 of our centre back pairing against the majority of the league.
Ooh, I don't know about Cresswell and Kjelder together. Yeah, that's real young. But I get your point.
I think what I mean is with in parents. So sorry, with one of our youngers, with one of our more experienced. So either Laurenti, Cook, or Cooper with any of Cresswell, Kjelder, and Struijk is probably what I meant more. Than
I would agree with that. I think you saw Cresswell come in against West Ham earlier in the season. Didn't put foot wrong. Had a really good game. We saw Helder play last week, and again he's come in. I think that there is a big difference when you're looking at the younger players that are coming in and really taking their chances. But when I were talking about young players there, I mentioned Cresswell and Kjelder. Struijk's done that well. I don't even see him that way anymore. Exactly. We've got 4 first-team centre halves, and he's one of them, and that's just how well he's done. And I think his name began with H, and I've been trying to remember it and padding a little bit while I've been trying to remember it. He went to Barnsley. Halme. Struijk was behind Halme when we're in the Championship, and that's just how well he's done and how much he's come on in that time frame. Because I absolutely would not bat an eye for him starting any game against any opposition. As long as I want him playing alongside Cooper or Laurenti or Cook. I want one of those to be playing. Him being the other one, we don't bat an eye at all.
No, absolutely not. And I think again, I mean, I know we've been almost forced our hand in terms of who we play and everything, but it just emphasises and reiterates the job that the coaching team and I can't even put it into words how well they must, breathe those players at the club and how they install their methods and the expectations on these players, because they're not world-class footballers, but as a unit, when they click together, I mean, albeit we've not had some great results over the season so far, but when you look at today's performance, when it clicks, it really clicks, doesn't it? And you could put, I don't know, Cameron Borthwick Jackson in that team today under.
Oh, come on! Let's not go too far.
We'll leave it there.
There were a topic on Twitter a couple of weeks ago of who is the. In fact, you might have even started it. Who's the worst player to have played for Leeds in your living memory? Yeah. And my answer was Cameron Borthwick Jackson.
He was bad, wasn't he? And with Jimmy Kebe and so on. Jay Michaels, he must be a friend of yours, is he? Is he? He just said hello.
All right, Jay. How are you doing?
You guys are mint. Thank you ever so much. Mark, again, pressure sets the precedent for the team. Fight the Leeds way. Goes back to what we said about Dan James, putting that pressure on from the front, from the first whistle. It sets us up to be in a great position. When you see your centre forward, I know he's not our centre forward or our centre forward for that matter, but when you see a centre forward putting that much energy into chasing a nothing ball down, really, because 99 times out of 100, he's never going to get there. But that pressure does set you up. And I think you're right, Mark. It's our style, and it's a style that we all love to see. All crash, aren't we? Yeah, great stuff. I've got.
Can I just say, in terms of the Leeds way as well, just one comment was what I really, really loved was just after he'd scored his goal, and then I think it was, if I've got the timeline right, and then the disappointment of it being chalked off. And that was just after a lot of people were saying it should have been Click that was subbed. And I were part of that. For me, I would have probably moved Dan James back and put Rodrigo up front and maybe sub Click. I thought he had a bit of a quiet game. And then he steamed straight into somebody and cleaned him out on right wing. And I thought, yes, that's really what we want to see. Get in. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. There was some nice Leeds type tackles, shall we say, being thrown about. Sorry, that was from Kev. Injuries were in the second half. It would have been Rod coming on. Bielsa probably felt 70 plus minutes. I think he's talking about Bate coming on here. Excuse me. That's right. Bate probably wouldn't have featured at all today. Is probably what he's saying. And if those injuries had happened, it'd been Rod coming on earlier. Possibly, we'll never know. Began, thanks again. Absolutely. Right, Jay Michaels, if we can add a couple of players, keep our 23s that are now first-team players, we look like Man U shite of the 90s. Feel sick saying it, but no, great comparison. Antonio, yeah, this is something I want to talk about. We've already talked about, but honest bit of our stop, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, basically, he should have been sent off. Can't keep up, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for Leeds for getting me through.
I think it's us that can't keep up with the comments rather than...
Yeah, it's us that can't keep
rather
up.
than the comments, yeah.
For getting me through day 6 of COVID boredom. Amazing performance. Stu, Bielsa learned his lesson. Cook and Click murdered that midfield. Hey, I tell you what we haven't spoken much about today is Cook in that holding role today. And I think he did half, yeah, because he's been so shit at it previously and because everything seemed to click today. As Stu said, yeah, look, he was actually brilliant. So Rice hiding.
Well, I think that role is because we're so used to Calvin playing and being so good at it. That when you see somebody playing and having a subpar performance, it's really, really obvious. So actually, I think the fact that almost went unnoticed is massive, massive credit to him because it's really obvious when somebody's having a poor game in there because we've seen how great Calvin can be in that role. Again, with Forshaw coming in, stepping in to do that, the fact that Cox being able to do that today is a massive, massive boost for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Bielsa, yeah, we just talked about that. 100 mil for what's an English Zaka with no game sense. Should be more watching this. Great job, guys. Well, tell everybody, Jay. Get him here. Jay Carter. This is my mate, Jay, or Jay from the podcast, also known as Doomsday Jay. When Struck played that first game against Liverpool, I was thinking beforehand, fuck me. He's gone on to become a really important squad member. All credit to him. Jay, I think you're spot on. I think that could be said about pretty much any of the players that were blooded through our 23s or 21s or 18s or whatever. When Gelder lined up last week in his first game, we didn't really know that much about him, did we? And he lined up and he had a steady game against the Hammers in the Cup. And today, when he came on, absolutely fantastic. I mean, some of these youngsters are going to be scarily good in a few years. And
agreed. And like I said before about when Cresswell came in against West Ham earlier on in the season at Elland Road, again, we'd not really seen much of him, and we're thinking, let's have a look at him because he looks good in under 23s, but you can't judge under 23s against first team performances. And they've come in and they've done well.
Yeah. Stu's just got a few points to make about our Bielsa players. He's made Ayling, I'm guessing this is what he's meaning. He's made Ayling into one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League. Harrison from a directionless winger who Lampard would never amount to anything. Who Lampard said, I'm guessing he meant, would never amount to anything. Bamford, a guy consistently bagging goals and link play. And lastly, 4. Calvin Phillips, a guy who was hot-headed and destined to become another callback led to Catamol. Great comparisons, by the way, because I have a feeling that's probably what his previous coaches thought of him. Championship player, look, a genius coach. But look, there's not enough words in the world to say how much we love Bielsa and how much we think of him and what he's done for our club.
Did you see the pictures of him from this morning with the under-9s or the under-10s?
Yeah, with the real little kids covering them all. Yeah.
He was making sure that he waved them off. It's brilliant. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, that's brilliant, and that's the measure of him because he wants to be involved in all of it. He just loves the sport and loves the club. You can see he loves the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, Cook, was great. I've just got a couple, before we just go into man of matches and things like that, who we'd take from West Ham and how we think we're going to progress and move on from today. I just want to go through a few Opta stats that I've just found from today about us improving. So Leeds have won 2 of their last 4 away league games in London, as many as in their last 29 matches combined. So prior to our last 4 games in London, we played there 29 times, won 2, drew 7, and lost 20 in London. And you think we were playing some shit then? QPR, fucking
Brentford,
Millwall
regularly. Millwall,
proper shit teams, and we still couldn't get wins in London. But yeah, look, Leeds United have won more Premier League games against West Ham than they have versus any other side in the competition's history, with 15. Great start. Leeds have won 2 of their last 4 away league games in London. As many as that. That's the same fucking start, you bastards.
That's the same start. We have won our last 2 away games where I don't think we'd won any before that, had we?
I'm not sure. I might come to that. I haven't read them all yet.
Sorry.
No side has scored more goals from corners since the start of 2020 in the Premier League than West Ham. And they have netted from a corner in 3 of their 4 league games against Leeds in that time. So, safe to say, we might as well just put everybody on the goal line when they get a corner.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last stat from Opta today, there have been 71 goals scored in West Ham's Premier League matches this season. Only Liverpool have scored more goals. Who gives a fuck about that one? That's not even got us involved in it. Right then. Right, yeah, we'll move on. So we'll start with your man of the match, Gilly, and why. I'm going to be quite open and obvious. Mine was Jack Harrison. I'm not really there to say why hat-trick. After some mediocre performances this season, he's not really been back to himself, but I would say today was, apart from Newcastle last season, where he was immense, I think that was probably his best performance in a Leeds shirt.
Yeah, it's hard to argue otherwise. I think the first game of last season, he was dynamite against Liverpool. That's one that sticks out for me. But, you know, he's my man of the match. You can't get away from it. I thought there were some real contenders. I thought Dallas was really strong today. But yeah, I mean,
before he went off, 4 shots was really tidy.
Yeah, he did. But you know that being so early on, it's difficult to gauge. And Cock had a good game. But yeah, we spoke about Dan James. You know, we know we were playing out of position, and you know, he still played well. But I think from my perspective, you can't overlook a hat-trick scorer for me, especially when that's his first ever professional hat-trick. And the last time he scored a brace was when he was about 12 playing in New York. Right. He wasn't 12, he was about 17 or something. But yeah, that's the last time he scored a brace. So, I mean, recognition, you know. And it wasn't just his goals either. Obviously, getting an early goal means that he's got confidence, and he's very definitely a confidence player. But his all-round play was great. You know, we expect him to have a good touch, but his decision-making and his pressing and just his all-round game today, it wasn't just his goals, but obviously his goals. When you score a hat-trick, you kind of cement it.
My thinking is that he's suffered because he's not had Paddy in front of him. When Paddy does so much work, it gives Jack a little bit more freedom, and he's almost had to be a little bit more structured and a little bit more rigid in his style of play, because he can't be too much out of position because Dan James is probably down, you know, near the corner flag or something. But he almost has a telepathic understanding with Bamford, which allows him that additional cut, even if it's only a couple of yards. You said with the Dallas chance earlier as well, if he was a couple of yards forward, he probably scores. So yeah, I think unanimous vote then for Harrison. I can't see how anybody else could have picked a different man of the match today, to be fair. Right, moving on to West Ham then. Who would you, based on today's performances, who, if any of their starting or subs, would you be interested, who might make a difference to us? Who was their best player?
Based on today's performance, I think it's hard to overlook Bowen. And he has always, even when they were at Hull and they were, you know, they had, was it Grzycki as well? That you know, Bowen was their only player. Grzycki was the only one that kind of looked like he could almost keep up with him, sort of thing. And they lost them both in the same window, I remember, and didn't get relegated. But you know, he's been a good player for a long time, and I think he's not just a good player. He's also a good player that translates that into positively influencing the game whenever he's playing. So for me, if it wasn't just on today's performance and it was all round, I might put my money to Declan Rice instead, on the basis that we know we've got issues in midfield. We know that Calvin can do that job further forward. We know they play well as a pivot. I might plump for Rice instead. But based on today's performance, I'd go Bowen.
Yeah, I mean, the only argument against that is you'd have to drop Rafinha for him.
I'd
Because
find a place elsewhere for him. No, genuinely, I think Rafinha will finish his career in the centre. I don't think he'll stay a winger all of his career. I think that.
See, I think he'd lose a lot. I think he'd lose a lot of his effectiveness with the way he cuts in and he, I mean, you look at his assist for Harrison. Was it his third? I think, wasn't it? Where he basically cut in inverted winger and played the through ball through to Jaggy. What was it, his second or his third? That. Anyway, it was a great finish.
Did he score his third with his cock?
Yeah, he did. So it was his second.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. Bowen was there man of the match and has been for both games against us this season. But yeah, I think Declan Rice, if we had the money, I mean, this is all hypothetical. Don't start writing on Twitter that we're going to be signing Bowen and fucking Rice. But yeah, I think it would be probably if I had the money to pick one or the other, it'd be Declan Rice because it'd solve a lot of our issues. I think he's got youth to his name as well. So yeah, that's them. Couple more things before we tie up then, Matt. The first thing is integrity in Bielsa we've already spoken about, but we didn't get that from Moyes. We obviously, I don't know if you heard the after the game comments. Moyes basically said he was mourning. He was saying that they had to play 3 games in the time that we played 2, and that was a real deterrent in the way they prepared for today's game. Albeit they played Norwich midweek, and they've had 3 home games in a row. They've all been at home. Yeah. We've been to London twice in a week with our under 7s. So I think he was clutching at straws there. And yeah, what do you
that's
make
not against us. I didn't hear these comments, but that one against us. That was about the Premier League and the scheduling and all of that. It was a Klopp whinge rather than a whinge about Leeds.
I don't know. But he mentioned that we didn't have to reschedule any of our cancelled games for midweek. So basically, they played 3 games within the space of the time that we've only played 2, including the cup fixture since last Sunday.
Was the Norwich game rescheduled?
They had it this Wednesday. They played this Wednesday.
Yeah, but was that a rescheduled game? I didn't realise. So that was a game that had been postponed previously. Yeah, so they had an opportunity to have a rest previously in the season that we've not had.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to get that clear.
So yeah, look. I mean, it's not the sort of comment I expect from Moyes because I think he's doing a fantastic job down at West Ham. Other than that today.
To be fair, we've talked about this, and he is a scummer. He has got that in him.
He's got it in him, yeah. So, but it just shocks me a bit. It seems like a lot of these teams that they're flirting around European football, they get a sense of entitlement, and that not just entitlement, that they actually think that they're more important. So yeah, entitlement.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why he didn't have the need to say that? He's had they've had a couple of defenders injured and stuff. I get that, but they've had 3 home games on the bounce against teams from the bottom 5 of the league. All 3 games. He shouldn't really you'd be using that as an excuse. He should have been gracious in defeat, and it just
there's another dimension as well. We've talked about the fact that we've not been able to put a solid sustained team out on a regular basis. I mean, we really, really haven't. We've been the entire opposite of that, as we know. He's picked just about his entire first team against us in both games. But we haven't done that. He didn't need to do that. He's got a squad that he could have used and hasn't, and then has complained about the fixtures. I mean, it is a Klopp rant. It's completely invalid. That's exactly
what I was going to go at. Yeah, that's the route I was taking. It's a very much a Klopp type comment, and I'm pretty sure their 23s beat our 23s or 18s midweek as well. So it's not like they haven't got some good players there. That he just didn't want to risk them, and that's the difference between having a great coach in Bielsa and having a decent, good coach in Moyes. That when you've got a bit of money, things become a lot easier.
It's not just about coaching ability, either.
Imagine Bielsa in money though. Just really quickly, let's all just have a little orgasm, mind orgasm. Imagine Bielsa has a lot of money to spend one year. But yeah, sorry, go on.
I would just want to come back to your point. It's not necessarily about even being a good or a great coach. It's about being a good man as well. And, you mentioned the word integrity. And Bielsa's got more of it than anybody else in the game. I'm absolutely 100% convinced of this. And actually, you've got others that haven't. I firmly believe that Liverpool lied about their COVID situation so that they could get through a scenario. You've then got Moyes that's complaining about fixture pile-up when we've got a 15-year-old on our bench.
Arteta.
2 weeks on bounce. Yeah, Arteta, we were saying, yeah. So, I think there's got to be an element of realism in this. And when you're complaining about fixture pile-up, and then look at the players that we've had unavailable and how long we've had them unavailable for, I think that really sticks in the throat. And that's quite disappointing from who I thought was a decent guy.
Yeah.
Albeit a scummer.
Yeah, I'll be a scummer. But yeah, look, I think we've sort of wrapped that up quite well. Last thing then, based on that performance and how well we are, we spoke about it in great detail, how well we're blooding our youngsters and how ready they are to sort of seamlessly come in and take up any opportunity. There's obviously a lot of murmurs and lots of questions around Twitter every 2 minutes about who we're signing, when we're signing. With our prerogative being stay in the Premier League this season, do we realistically need to overspend and buy anybody this window?
I think that. So the short answer to that is no. I think if the right midfielder becomes available, I think the club will move for them if they're at the right price. And those are quite a few things to come together. I think if we hark back to Howard Wilkinson once said, if you are a really good manager that's good at finding talent and good at coaching that talent and understands the game and the way that you want to play, if you get 1 in 2 signings right, you've done really, really well. Really? Now, and for somebody like Wilco to come out and say that with all of the experience he had in the game at the point at which he was saying it, which wasn't, that wasn't all that. I don't think it was at Leeds. I think it was after he'd left Leeds. So for somebody to say that sort of thing, and then the amount of, I get that early on when Orta was with the club, we were signing a lot of players and quite a lot of them were dross. But actually, that was the challenge he was given: is get numbers in. Get numbers into the club, and you've hardly got any money to spend. Just get numbers in, and if some of them work out, great. Was basically that was his MO. That was what he was asked to do. Now what it is find the right character, the right player, the right performer with the right technique and the right capabilities, and that's an entirely different proposition. And the right attitude. Exactly that. The right person. Yeah. So that's an all sorts of sort of different dimension. So when you play that into a really difficult transfer window in January, where the only players that tend to move are either Newcastle committing Burnley to relegation by triggering a release fee, which I genuinely think that's Burnley gone. Unless they can spend that money wisely and quickly, I think that's then gone. So it's about bringing in the right person with all of those right attributes that fits into the squad in the right position. If all of that comes together, we'll buy a midfielder. And if it doesn't, I don't think we'll sign anybody else. I'd really be honest. I
listened to Bielsa being interviewed midweek. I think it was Yorkshire or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he was on, but he basically, pretty much highlighted that there are so many differentials to making a transfer and it being suitable to us. First, money. First, attitude. Second, attitude. Third, are they going to improve us drastically? And not just improve us for the next 6 months, or the next, next 5 or 6 months. We want them to be figurative and be prominent within our squad next season. We want to improve. We don't want to improve for the next 6 months. We want to improve and move forward as a club. Now, if that means we can get a midfielder in this window, that's going to cost us, I don't know, say £15 million. But in the summer, they were going to cost us £10 million. There's no benefit in that. Why would you throw £5 million away if we're still going to finish with the current crop of players in a comfortable position. I think we're fine. I don't think we've got anything to worry about. I think and the reason I think this is I think there are enough teams with not enough about them to stay up this year.
Yeah.
Whereas I think we've got that about us. It's in depth. We've got a lot of people coming back over the next sort of couple of months, and I think we'll be tactically sound over the next few months to get us to that stage. But when we get some of the better players and the bigger players and the more important players back, we'll be fine. However, if, as you rightly say, if a player comes up whereby they're touting to move away from their club for whatever reason, and the club's willing to accept a similar offer now to what we think they'd be worth in the summer, then yeah, I think we absolutely would make a move on that. And I think there's been ramblings that I don't know how accurate some of these stories are, but £15 million has been set aside to buy a midfielder. Fantastic, but.
I mean, bear in mind, we're getting a bonus 3.75 million unlooked for from the Wood transfer.
Is that being confirmed by Phil Hare? Anybody?
I think so. I think Phil or maybe Graham. We've not seen it from the club, and we probably won't. But I think it was confirmed by one of the sources that we'd trust. But I'd have to go double check.
Okay. That'd be quite
50% of the transfer fee. So I think it was worked out by us at 3.75 if it was a £25 million move.
That's if it wasn't. That's it. If it wasn't just on the profit from the sale, because that would then only be 15% of 10 million, because they sign him for 15.
Right.
So there's two separate ways that clubs do those sell-on clauses, and one's percentage of profit from the sale. And one is percentage of next sale. So the two quite different figures, as you could probably imagine. But yeah, it might be worth finding out a little bit more about that for Tuesday then. Right then, so say we've got 15 million. Who are you going to sign?
Well, I don't know much about it, but we have been linked with a Standard Liège midfielder today. There was a lot of rumblings. Now, a lot of those were coming from bullshit sites like Here Is the City and that sort of thing that just come out with nonsense. For 15 million, I don't know. There's been lots of rumblings about O'Brien and Swift. I think Swift looks all right. O'Brien again looks all right. I'm not convinced wholly by either of them, but that's because we've not seen him play at the top level yet. And until you do, and until you see him, able to operate with players that are playing regular Premiership and see if they can keep up, you can't really tell. I kind of would be a little bit disappointed if we spent that much on those players. I think I don't think that the value would be in the deal there. But potentially we could land them both for that sort of money.
Maybe.
I'm really not sure. I think there's all sorts of ways you can look at that. If you look at Rodrigo, we're thinking about Spain's number 9 coming in for a lot of money. He's not in the midst or early in his career. We wanted somebody to come in as an experienced professional, and regardless of what he's done on the pitch, he's an experienced professional. He will have benefited the changing rooms and the squad and the training sessions, and so on. He will have added into those. So regardless of anything else, I think that we've lost quite a bit in Pablo and Berardi and even Alioski. They played a lot of games for us, and they've played a lot of games in their careers. For me, I think bringing experience, you can see what experience means in Forshaw. That capability and those games he's played in the past, because he played in the Premier League before and he played well. So for me, it's not necessarily just somebody coming in with the capability. And we look at Bate coming in and he's playing well. He does well, but he's a young kid, and there's others coming in. I think that for me, if we're talking about the likes of Bate and maybe Jenkins and others being given opportunities next season, is what's wrong with bench today as well. Yeah, but for me, what's wrong with being in a position where we can bring in an experienced player that might not be getting minutes at his club, but on loan till summer? Yeah,
absolutely. I just want to just. I know we're going on tonight, so I don't know why. Me and you can talk shit for ages, can't we? But just on, I think we need to bring a 10 in, and I think we could do with bringing a 10 in who can benefit the team, as Jay said. Not somebody who benefit just now, but next season as well. absolutely missed those three massive figures within the changing rooms. You can probably imagine wealth of experience between them. But just on Rodrigo, there, I know you mentioned Rodrigo, and this isn't relative to us signing anybody. There's been rumours of him going and going to potentially Barcelona. Would you take what we paid for him to Barcelona now if we could sign somebody?
I think trying to get somebody in now. Do you know if he wants to go, and we can get the money back for him summer, but for me, not now. We need every player we've got.
I think you're right.
So I wouldn't even take cash back. No. Is the short answer. No, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. I think you're right. Right then, what we got going on over the next week or so, Gilly? We've got Tuesday night. We'll have our usual pod night, whatever you want to call it, with four of the gang. I don't know who it is without looking. We've been in touch with some familiar faces, those who've been pod fans and friends of the pod for some time now. We've got a couple of people sort of getting back in touch with us who'd like to feature and come on and stuff. So you might see some familiar faces, not just from the pod, but maybe people who've been on the pitch at Leeds and not streaking like Matt does, but actual players and stuff like that. So keep your eyes peeled. We've got lots of interesting stuff coming up. A little bit of news to release as well over the next week or so. Matt and I are going to be working on a short video before that comes out, I think. And then, stay in touch. We've got Newcastle to look forward to next week.
Yeah, Newcastle, and then unfortunately after that, the international break, isn't it? But actually, that might play into our favour because we might be able to get some players back.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Thanks everybody for all your comments as always. Follow both myself and Matt. How do you do it?
This bit, yeah.
Matt on Twitter. If you don't already, and if you've got any ideas or anything you want to throw at us, and then we'll be happy to try and have a bit of a chat with you. I'm usually arguing with people, but I can take a break from that. Thank you everybody for tonight. Great 3 points. So let's move on to Newcastle and pick up another 3. Cheers, Matt.
Cheers. See you later.
We're in London. That's the fucking difference. We're in London. That's the fucking difference.